And hello once more, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to episode number 40 of the Druids Dozen. Yeah, didn't think I'd be going on this long, but you know, and for the people that are watching, and more people still watching on Facebook than are watching on YouTube, but hey, I don't care. I actually just meet to kill an hour on a Saturday afternoon and share my love of music. Yeah, it's Druids Dozen. My name's John. I say we're known in certain circles as the Rock Druid, and basically it's me raiding my record collection, waving some albums in front of the camera and chatting to them. I'm a radio DJ. I'll put details to the shows down there on Facebook, over there on YouTube, so you can have a look should you want. Okay, so without further ado, let's pile straight in, shall we, with the first one for today. And we're going to start by going down under. Here we go. Rock and Roll Outlaw, Rose Tattoo, 1981 in the UK. I'll explain why that was. I said that in a minute. There's the front. There's the back. Angry Anderson and the boys on stage. Now, career record, you see. Nothing of interest in the sleeve. Now, Rose Tattoo, in my opinion, probably the second best known Australian heavy rock band after AC/DC. Okay, I know these days you've got the Locks of Airborne and that in the mix, but definitely the second Australian band to break through internationally. And one of the bands that helps establish what I like to call the Aussie boogie sound. It's something that if you listen to a lot of Australian music, there's a kind of swing boogie kind of beat that kind of you know, kind of almost like is a hallmark, a signature of Australian bands. Most noticeable with say AC/DC, Rose Tattoo, Airborne, etc. But you know, there's even bands like the Amity Affliction and some of the Aussie hardcore and punk bands. They boogie. There's a natural swing in it, and I think maybe there's something in the water. But anyway, this is Rose Tattoo's debut album. Came out in the UK in 1981. Although in Australia it predates, goes back to about 1978, I think, the Australian issue. And the Australian issue was originally just called Rose Tattoo. Was only ever released initially in Australia, although when Rose Tattoo first ventured out to Europe, it was and the track Rock and Roll Outlaw became a minor hit single in the UK and parts of Europe. The album was later repackaged and brought out. Very good album. Shares the same what is it, Vandrin Young production, Albert Productions credits as a lot of the early AC/DC stuff. Overall comes over a bit like AC/DC, but these guys use a slide guitar rather than just two straight guitars, so you got a bit of a kind of almost like country feel in there in places as well. Very much in your face, head bangy stuff. Probably the best known two tracks on here are Rock and Roll Outlaw, which was not a UK hit single, but also covered by Guns N' Roses at some point in their career. Bad Boy for Love, which was another minor hit single in the UK off this album. But overall, the other tracks are damn good as well. The Butcher and Fast Eddie, kind of quite a involved track about two Australian ne'er-do-wells having a set to. Astro Wally, One of the Boys, Remedy, Nice Boys Don't Rock and Roll. It's just a great album. lays out exactly what Rose Tattoo are about, and the three albums that came after this, which was Assault and Battery, Scarred for Life, and Southern Stars, equally as good. But you know, this is a good place to start with Rose Tattoo. Cracking album from a cracking band, and you know, if you've not really explored Rose Tattoo's back catalogue, please do yourself a favour and do so. And this album is a good enough place as any to start. Yeah, our first one today, 1981, Rose Tattoo, Rock and Roll Outlaws. Okay, next up, we'll have this. This is the Dirty Flowers EP by Dirty Flowers. There's the front. There's the back. There's the disc. This, I believe, is 2015. Maybe a year or so out either way, but around about then. Dirty Flowers are a band from Manchester here in the UK. They're a kind of six-piece funk rock fusion outfit, heavily influenced by, you know, George Clinton and the Mothership, Parliament. You know, they got the kind of P-funk going on through here. And I came across these at a festival. Oh God, got to be around 2015, which is the reason why I said probably around about then when this got released. Now I can't remember which festival it was, but I know I played there with Alien Stash Tin. These are on the same bill, and I was rather impressed with their kind of groovy noise they made. Yeah, they're kind of, say, heavy funk. Maybe a bit of kind of jazz rock or ska thrown in as well, but overall it's just pretty dancey, up tempo, you know, good party festival type fodder. There's 4 tracks on here. My favourite cut is K Fairy, the second one, although I'll list them all for completeness sake. You got Wobble, Defunk and Polyamory as well. All pretty good stuff. These guys know how to play. They know how to kind of churn out a good kind of groovy tune. And they know how to entertain. Because I said, I've seen them live. Sadly, as far as I'm aware, these guys called it quits around about 2019. That's when the last they were advertising about being their last gig and that kind of thing. So I presume these are no more. Sad, but if you know what happened to members of Dirty Flowers, you know where the comments are, please let me know, and I'll be interested to find out what these guys went on to. But overall, it may take a bit of digging, but if you can track a copy down and you like a bit of P-Funk, this will be right up your street. So the Dirty Flowers EP by Dirty Flowers. Okay, next up, an album which I think is one of my all-time favourites. Well, I know it's one of my all-time favourites, and probably the best thing this band ever recorded. There we are, Tonic for the Troops by Boomtown Rats. There's the front. The back of this is at a funny angle, so I'm going to have to turn it up like that for the back. There's Bob Geldof and the boys, mid-pose. And yeah, Polydor ensign label, nothing else on the inside. Now, just in case you don't know, yes, Bob Geldof was one of the give me up all that money, famous for his involvement with the Live Aid movement. But, you know, apart from that, he was the front man of the Boomtown Rats. A kind of punky-ish band out of Dublin, came out during the punk era. Now I say punky-ish because, yeah, I don't really think of the Boomtown Rats as being an out-and-out punk band. They haven't got the, although they're capable of it, they haven't got the snarling nihilism of the Pistols or the kind of political punch of the Clash or the just righteous political anger of the Stiff Little Fingers. They owe more a kind of classic rock musically. And they just seem to be kind of wrapped up in the whole punk and new wave movement because that was the scene they came off. But I'm not the sort of person to argue genres. I'm just gonna say that band that I've always loved. A friend of mine had their debut album when it came out when I was a snotty little spotty little kid at secondary school, and we played it lots. And needless to say, I started liking the Boomtown Rats. This album came out and I acquired this on release, and I've had it ever since. Yeah, this is probably best known for, let's have a look. Yeah, their first #1 single, Rat Trap. You know, if you've seen the old Top of the Pops performance of them ripping up John Travolta photos as they mime. Cool stuff, and it is playing, I think it's playing a chandelier instead of a saxophone, is Mr. Gilder. Other things on here, you've got Like Clockwork, Don't Believe What You Read, another couple of quite successful singles off this album, and some corking album tracks. My favourite Boomtown Rat Trap track. Get me confused, I'm falling over my words. I'll start that again. My favourite Boomtown Rats track, I Never Loved Eva Braun's on here, which is kind of a love song from Hitler to Eva Braun, done very, very tongue-in-cheek and twisted, and it's brilliant, fantastic sing-along chorus on it. Me and Howard Hughes, Watch Out for Normal People. Every track on here is a bit of a winner. And it marks a high point that I don't think the Boomtown Rats ever really managed to follow up on. Yeah, the album after this, Fine Out Surfacing, that's the one with Don't Like Mondays on it. I find a bit disappointing overall. Mainly suffering from following this gem. And then the next couple, what was it? Mondo Bongo, Skin Deep, I think. Patchy. They're good, but they're a bit patchy overall. But as far as one sheer piece of 45 minutes of genius, the Boomtown Rats have never bettered at the Tonic for the Troops. So, you know, anyone that hasn't really heard a Boomtown Rats album in toto, or just a couple of hit singles, should really do themselves a favour and give this album a listen. Yeah, 1978 this came out. A Tonic for the Troops, Boomtown Rats. Okay, next up. Here we go. This is Resurrection, 25 Years Gone by Mournblade. There's the front. There's the back. There's the disc, and there's a little booklet card here. There's just a photo montage of Mournblade at their reunion gig, or their resurrection gig. The track listing. Now, I've covered Mournblade a couple of times already in this series, and I'll hand on heart, they are one of my all-time favourite bands. Ultra cult obscurities. They're formed in London around about in the early 80s as a kind of heavy space rock band. They did they actually recorded a cassette album called The Eternal Champion, which I sadly haven't got a copy of. I've really got to try and track down that one. Then they did an album called Time's Running Out, which I've covered the original pressing on an early edition of this show, where they kind of demoed some material, sent out to Flick Knife Records, who released it as it was. The result is a flawed but genius album. Line-up change, did an album called Live Fast Die Young, courted by many record companies because these guys were getting a huge following live. are capable of sort of like coming to Bristol and playing at the old Granary Club, and you know, selling the place out. So it was floor to ceiling, 600 people in a 400 capacity building. Not safe, but absolutely a stunning atmosphere. Then tour with Motorhead, and then kind of not wanting to sell out because the record labels that were fishing after them were sort of demanding style changes and image changes, etc. Band weren't going to swallow that. They called it quits. 25 years later, the organisers of the Heavy Metal Maniacs Festival in Holland persuaded them to reform for a one-off gig. And fortunately, it didn't just stay a one-off gig, because the band are now semi-officially together, although with lockdown that on hiatus, and are working distantly. They got together in 2012 for the first time in a good few years. Managed to rehearse a set, write a new single, and record a 2 live albums. There's this, which is the actual live concert album, Resurrecting, and then there's Live and Loud, which I'll come to on a future show, which is basically live in rehearsal room, basically the same set, a few variations, and go on stage at this massive great big festival in Holland and blow the place apart. Absolutely a mind-blowing performance. They also, I've got over there somewhere, a DVD of the performance. It's to be believed, but the audio is on here. It's a high-octane, in-your-face, warts and all, just exercise in rock and roll brilliance. From the opening cut, if you can't be good, right through to the closer, which is a storming version of Motorhead's Bomber. The tracks just come at you like a big coming at you thing, like a runaway bulldozer. The set's mainly taken from their Live Fast Die Young album, although you have got things like Laughter from the Mask, Titanium Hero, and Sidewinder from their Time's Running Out album. They've also got another cover, which is the Dan's classic Neat Neat Neat, just drops in for the hell of it, and the new single they recorded, Selling Your Ass for a Big Time, which was done in one day in a studio in London. A live version of that one here. The Dunk Millett, the vocalist, is on fine form. You can tell the guy's enthusiasm and his joy of being back, not only with Mournblade but back in England, because the guy's been living in New Zealand for the past umpteen years. The joy of on the guy's vocals is absolutely amazing. If you get to watch any of the live footage from this gig, his performances is just mind-blowing. The rest of the band, is it Magpie the drummer and the rest of them, was it Magpie the guitarist? I can't remember who's who. My brain's gone fade today, but they're all on fine form. It's just a cracking live set. They've done one other Reformation brief UK tour, only a few dates, a year or two after this, and I've heard that there were plans afoot for something last year, but obviously with COVID it didn't happen. But you know, the rest of the guys are still active. They've still got their own band. I still hear from Magpie and Dunk Millett fairly regularly, and you know, they have not ruled out that at some point there will be another comeback and another UK tour, maybe some festivals, etc. But you know, I wait today because I haven't seen Mournblade since about 1990, and I couldn't get to this gig. Missed them when they came over on the follow-up. But you know, I still live in hope that one day I'll be able to go and see Mournblade again, because I saw them loads of times back in the 80s. Yeah, absolutely storming record. One of the best live albums I've got in my collection. Mournblade, Resurrection, the 25th anniversary concert, 2012. Cracking record. Okay, next up we're going to stay in that kind of heavy space rock kind of genre for the next one. and we'll have this. This is 1980s Flesh and Blood, Fresh Blood, sorry, by Steve Swindles. There's the front, there's the back with Mr. Swindles and a cigarette. Pull this out. We're having more lyrics. Primarily lyrics and credits on there. Now, excuse me, I'm just going to have a splash of water for my throat. Now, Steve Swindles, probably best known for his work with Hawkwind, was Hawkwind's keyboard player for a shortish time, sort of 78, 79 period. I can't remember the album he played on, but yeah, 25 years, the Outlaws record, I can't remember. But anyway, his probably biggest contribution to Hawkwind was a track that Hawkwind never actually recorded, Shot Down in the Night. It turns up on their Live 79 album and is, well, still to this day, is a fairly regular part of Hawkwind's set. Yeah, but he never got around to recording it with Hawkwind, although when he, not many people do, people come and join Hawkwind and leave Hawkwind sort of almost on a daily basis. When he left, he went to the studio, recorded this solo album, and with and included Shot Down in the Night, recorded on here. It's a pretty good album. It's not, don't listen to this album expecting it to sound very Hawkwind. It doesn't. It's more of a kind of, for those of you can remember the early episode of this, I talked about a band called Joy, did an album called 24 Carat. This is more in that kind of vein. It's kind of heavy synth-led, kind of new wave rock. Bit heavy, but it's quite sort of synthy and punky in places almost. Steve Swindles does the vocals and keyboards, but he's joined by two ex-Hawks on here as well. This is Hugh Lloyd Langton, does all the guitars, and Simon King, former Hawkwind drummer, thumping the pigskin. A guy called Nick Potter on bass, who I believe also played with the Hugh Lloyd Langton band, so there's a connection there as well. Yeah, overall it's pretty good. It's not an earth-shattering album, and I've got to admit, when I first brought this back in the 80s, I found it a bit of a disappointment. It took me a while to get into it, but you know, stuck with, etc. And overall now I quite like. Steve Swindles is still going, still bringing out some great solo stuff, and still doing a lot of session work. And yeah, and he's, you know, so he's an interesting character musically to try to track down and check out. So yeah, Steve Swindles, Fresh Blood, 1980. For the Hawk completionists and those that are a bit kind of new wave synth rock curious, maybe. Yeah. Not a bad album, not brilliant, but not a bad album. Okay, next up we'll have another band that I covered in an earlier edition of this show, episode 14 I believe, so I looked them up. This is a band called Venus Mountains. They're out of Lombardy in Italy. There's the front. There's the back. It's got very dark in here all of a sudden. Yeah, I haven't got any proper lighting, you see. I'm reliant on above lights and little couple of torches shone at me, so and the sun's gone in because it's about to piss down again. But anyway, this is their album, or their EP, The Birth, from I want to say 2008. I may be wrong. Anyway, there's the back. There is the disc. Nothing of interest behind the disc. And we have the booklet here. There's the band. There's some lyrics. There's the band and more lyrics. Yeah, I think this is about 2008. I may be wrong. Correct me if I am. But like I said, Venus Mountains, kind of heavy rock outfit, bit heavy metal band. They're out of Lombardy in Italy. And yeah, I came across these again with my alien stashing hat on again at a festival. Playing a small festival up in Gloucester. These guys were headlining, well, I think a special guest, I think Screamer were headlining. But yeah, got chatting to them, and those of you that have seen the guide to the Alien Stashing albums that I did over Christmas, there's a track on the first album called Soldier's Song, and their lead singer, along with a couple of guys from Screamer, joined me on stage for the Fuck You parts. But anyway, yeah, Venus Mountain is a very, very good, entertaining hard rock band. So metal tingy. Bits of the Guns N' Roses about them maybe, but heavy Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses fitted with lead underpants maybe. Yeah, so this is their debut 6-track mini album, EP kind of thing. So I covered their second album a bit on an earlier edition of this show, and apparently there's a third album came out about 2 years ago. But overall, damn good band, really entertaining, nice bunch of lads. This album here is a bit of a gem. The opening cut, Sexy Rocker, is, you know, it just lays out the stall for you. You put this album on, that just kind of punches you in the ear, and it just goes from there. Live 40 years and die, which is really bizarre because when I was younger, I was convinced that I wouldn't make 40. I did a lot of stuff back then that probably would have curtailed my life, but here I am in my late 50s and still going. Black Ball, The Rock and Roll Life, Red Wine, Thunder, every track on here is a bit of a gem. It's kind of got that kind of carefree Latin spirit. It's but immaculately played. New Model label, which is a damn fine Italian record label. A bit sweary, as the lyrics got there, parental guidance thing. But overall, they're a band that are a lot of fun, and you know, they deserve to be better known outside Italy. I don't even know how well known they are known in Italy, but they deserve to be better known, full stop. And so do yourself a favour, check them out if you get a chance. So this is The Birth by Venus Mountains. Okay, another CD, and the obligatory Hometown of Bristol one. This is the eponymous debut album by Bristol band The Deltics. There's the front. There's the back. Whip it out. There's the disc. Oh, I forgot about this. And in here I have a Deltics business card. And press release there. Now, Deltics were, I'm not sure whether these guys are actually still together, but they're I say art because I haven't heard that they split up. It's just I haven't seen them around for a while. So when was this album came out? 2012 this one was. Art Stroke were a Bristol kind of garage punk band. Very much in that kind of 60s garage punk, you know, Question Mark of the Mysterians, etc. You know, sort of hints of some of the later US punk, like the Dictators maybe. Just a really good, no nonsense kind of slightly psychedelic, slightly punky, old school garage rock band. There's there's a number of tracks on here that I'm just trying to think where to start. Let's go to the second side, Jag Mark II, which is a song about the glories of things like the Sweeney. And yeah, because all the bad guys drove Jag Mark IIs in the Sweeney, if you remember that TV show, in UK one. Coffee Shop Blues, Seafood, The Heist, Blaggers Retreat, I Like the Way You Walk. Close a Psychedelic Sid, song about Sid Barrett. It's just great stuff. There's not a weak track on this album. The live, these guys were really hot as well. I did another album after this, the title track, which escapes me. I've got it over the back there somewhere, and I probably will dig it out and bring it to you at some point. But you know, these guys, good, fun, live band, nice guys as well, and done a whole series of pretty cool, pretty powerful sort of CDs. 2 albums and an EP, I think they've done, and yeah, whole string of great live gigs after them. Can't tell you much else about them, just that give them a Google. Other search engines are available, of course, and see what you think. So this is Looking Back by the Deltics, 2012. Good stuff indeed. Okay, next up we'll have a bit of a classic. I mean, it's not just me saying that this is a classic, this is a classic. This is Rainbow Rising, 1976. There's the front with the fist grabbing the rainbow erupting out of a stormy sea, linking a couple of linking a Disney-esque castle to somewhere else. There's the back. Ronnie James Dio, Jimmy Bain, Cozy Powell, Richie Blackmore, Tom Carey, Don Carey, Tony Carey. I can't remember the Rainbow keyboard players. There's the inner gatefold. Nice band pick. Lyrics of the classic Stargazer. Album credits there. Okay, now this is the second Rainbow album put together by Rainbow when Richie Blackmore left Deep Purple, and the first to actually be credited to Rainbow as opposed to Richie Blackmore's Rainbow, although Rainbow always has been Richie Blackmore's band, to everyone's sort of relief or chagrin, depending on what way you want to look at it. And this is probably their finest hour. Just a superb piece of work, bracketed by or both sides open with one of the all-time classic rock numbers. The opening cut, we have Tarot Woman with its fantastic Tony Carey keyboard intro leading into just a superb rock number, and then the second side opens with Stargazer, 8.5 minutes of people tale of a wizard building a tower so that he could fly and prove his godness to the people, and how there's blood on the sand at the end. A track that going back to the right through the 80s, when magazines like Kerrang and Metal Hammer used to poll the greatest rock tracks of all time. Stargazer used to win it or be in the top 3 every year, because it is just a jaw-droppingly awesome song. And one that I think, you know, everyone still heard of Stairway to Heaven, everyone still heard of Smoke on the Water, but, you know, fortunately for me, Stargazer's a track that's kind of gone underground rather than entered mainstream consciousness, so I can still play it on the radio and not and actually have people go, younger people go, oh, bloody hell, that was brilliant, who was that? Rather than kind of me going, oh god, I've heard it before. But yeah, but they're just the kind of cream of the crop of the album. The rest of the album's pretty damn good as well. Do You Close Your Eyes, Run with the Wolf, Starstruck, and The Light in the Black. That's all the tracks that are on here. They all tend to be fairly long songs, all fairly involved. There's some great instrumental work on it, not least from Richie Blackmore himself, proving that despite, you know, the guy apparently being a prickly figure to work with, as a guitarist, the guy has few peers. Ronnie James Dio's, you know, a lot of people claim this as being his finest vocal performance. You know, wailing away about rainbows and, you know, his kind of, you know, Dungeons and Dragons fantasy kind of world that he kind of builds into his songs. Rock solid rhythm section of Cozy Powell, Jimmy Bain, wrapping it all off. You know, both of which are sadly no longer with us, but two of the best. They make one of the greatest rhythm sections in rock and roll, in my opinion. Overall, just a mind-blowingly good album. One of the all-time classics, if ever there was, and one that should be in everybody's record collection. So yeah, 1976, Rising by Rainbow, beyond recommended. This is a must-have. Okay, next up, a band that I don't know that much about, to be honest with you. Band that I've never really got into kind of exploring. This is Barclay James Harvest, or John Lee's Barclay James Harvest, because when this came out, Barclay James Harvest were in kind of multiple parts, all calling themselves Barclay James Harvest, and when they weren't gigging or performing or rehearsing or recording, they were in court trying to sue each other over the name. This is Legacy, live at the Shepherd's Bush Empire from 2006. And so there's the back, there's the front, that's what's behind the disc, there is the disc, here's the booklet. Inlay thing from the record label. Quite a humorous thing there, warning from the Shepherd's Bush Empire about crowd surfing. Like people are going to crowd surf to Barclay James Harvest, old hippies they are. Album notes, recording notes, live photographs, etc. Now, to my horror, I'll admit, hand on heart, I know naff all really about Barclay James Harvest. All I know is they're a British prog band that sort of like formed in the 70s, maybe even the late 60s, and are still going, or various incarnations of them are still going. My entire Barclay James Harvest collection consists of a couple of odd singles, which I know nothing about, on 7-inch, that I just picked up at various times because I thought, oh, I've heard of them, I'll give them a listen. This album and another one on vinyl, dating from the early 80s, which I don't really know that much about because I don't really like it that much. This album I do quite like, but like I said, overall they're another band like lots. There's so many bands so little time, so yeah, some do slip under my radar, and like the Moody Blues, not really a band I've really had much chance to explore. But overall, so I can look at this without kind of saying, oh, there's better performances of this track on there, but I can look at it as a kind of newbie coming to the band, I suppose. Overall, this is pretty good. I do like this album. This is not without merit. It's very enjoyable. It is very progressive. It's very well played. Whoever these people are in this current lineup of Barclay James Harvest, fine players and doing a good job. Favourite cut on here is probably the great 1974 mining disaster. Although the Poor Man's Moody Blues, which I can vaguely remember them being called as a kind of insult in a story that they got called it by some review back in the 70s, and they kind of took it on as a kind of moniker to kind of say screw you to the press, a bit like when Greenslade wrote the track Newsworth. It is good. In Search of England, The Mockingbird, Child of the Universe. It's all really good stuff, slickly played. I'm not going to say it's earth-shattering. I'm not going to say this is album's a must-have, but what I mean to say, but I found this album as a kind of way into not the Moody Blues, the Poor Man's Moody Blues, Barclay James Harvest, as a handy one. And I have really got to go and get some more of their stuff and give them a deeper listen. So this is what I'm going to hand it over to you people watching. Who would you recommend? What albums would you recommend from Barclay James Harvest that I explore? Because, like I said, I'm up for anything. So suggestions in the comments, please. Which Barclay James Harvest album shall I go and listen to? But overall, if you're like me and you've never heard of Barclay James Harvest, or you've heard the name but never really listened to them, this is as good a place as any to start. Legacy, live at the Shepherd's Bush Empire, London, 2006. Good stuff. Okay, next up we'll have a complete change of gear. Something a little bit odd. This is the Animal Lover EP by the Hunters Club. There's the front. There's the back. Pull this out. There's the disc. Trash Can Records, a label I've never heard of. Interesting that the lyric sheet contains a track called Trash Can, and there's also some rather obscure kind of dope influenced sleeve notes that don't make very good scanning. They're bits of the Bible with bits of thing tricked out. And here we've got a one of the old merch sheets that I mentioned. In case you haven't seen these before, back in the days before the internet, if you were to turn up at a gig with the old band's new t-shirt on, but that when they toured, you'll get this. You would cut it out and send an order through with a postal order or a check, and by snail mail, of course, and your response would be within a couple of weeks your t-shirt would arrive. Yeah, t-shirts, button badges, patches, etc. Now, Hunters Club, I do believe, came out of Nottingham. And they were a part of a short-lived kind of musical kind of rock subgenre in Britain called Gerbo. Greasy biker rock, effectively, but kind of blended in also elements of psychedelia, almost kind of like rave culture in that as well. Probably the best known band from that kind of movement will probably probably be Gay Bikers on Acid, or there was something about goats in space or something like that. Anyway, Hunters Club came out on that scene. Musically, they're very interesting. They're a bit goth. They're a bit kind of Dumpy's Rusty Nut style biker rock. They're a bit dancey. You know, a bit space rock, a bit punk. Everything just kind of blended into one kind of greasy, sludgy, grungy whole. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not that sure whether I like it or not. I never was a big fan of Gay Bikers on Acid. They did some couple of fairly interesting tracks, but overall left me a bit cold. Hunters Club were almost like their little bastard brothers. They toured with them a lot and kind of came off the same scene. And I sort of, although I like Hunters Club a bit more than I like Gay Bikers on Acid, overall my jury is out on these guys. And considering this album came out in around about 1987, and my jury, and I've got this when it came, well, not long after it was released, my jury is still out. I don't think my opinion will change. You know, sometimes I can play it and think this is quite good, other times I play it and think what a mess. So yeah, I can't really go much into there. The track Animal Lover, Get Naked sure feels good, and the reprise of Animal Lover are the 4 tracks on here. All much of a muchness really. Yeah, so I said they got that kind of Dumpy's Rusty Nuts attitude with a bit of goth thrown in and a bit of a kind of dance beat behind them. Just makes for a kind of interesting blend that's, you know, that I recommend people should at least give a try. You may love it, you may hate it, or you may end up a bit indifferent. But you know, whatever it is, don't ignore it, because it is still a small underground part of the UK rock history. Yeah, the Hunters Club, Animal Lover, their debut EP, 1987. Okay, final CD for today. We'll have this one. This is Legends Never Die by the Dreadnoughts. There's the front. There's the back. I think this one's about 2013 as well. There's the behind the disc. There's the disc itself. And oh, it's not Legends Never Die, it's Victory Square. I did Legends Never Die on an earlier edition of the show. Apologies to the Dreadnoughts. Yeah, Victory Square. There's the sleeve with some lyrics. There's the back of the thing, which is the album credits. Now, Dreadnoughts, they're a band out of Vancouver in British Columbia, over there in Canada. They're a 5-piece anarchic folk punk piratey sea shanty Wurzel loving, cider drinking bundle of rock and roll fun. These guys, I came across these when, again, Alien Stashing, we ended up supporting them. A couple of dates on there. Not the first time I came over to Britain, I think it was. We played them in Bristol. And God, can these guys drink. That's my first impression of them. These guys worship Bristol bands like the Wurzels, the Surfing Turnips, etc. And Surfing Turnips were on the same bill as well. And these guys in the Surfing Turnips disappeared to a pub called the Apple, which is a Bristol pub that just specialises in more cider than you can shake a stick at. And these guys disappeared, came back not long before they were due on stage with a distinct inability to walk in a straight line and stand up. And the promoter, who was a friend of mine, is kind of going all kinds of colours, thinking, oh my God, what have I booked, what have I booked? But the weird thing was, despite the alcohol intake, these guys, 5 minutes before they were due on, stopped drinking, went on, did a mind-blowing performance. Yes, it was drunken, it was anarchic, it was fun, but it was tight as hell and absolutely bloody excellent to watch. Came off and started drinking again. Just an amazing performance by a really amazing band. And this is their second album, so Victory Square. Probably best known for what's the cut? Ivanhoe, The West Country, Boneyard, Samovar, Amsterdam is the one I was trying to think of. Title cut, Victory Square. Just these guys could outpogo. They outpogo the Pogues. They can make it. It's just mind blowing. Full in your face, sort of mad burning fiddles, screaming guitar solos, yelled kind of sub-Shane MacGowan vocals. Just one of the best folk punk bands I've ever seen. Seen them live a couple of times since this album came out, and got quite a few of their albums these days. They've got about 4 or 5 of them out, of which I've got at least 3, if not more. And just storming. If you've never heard the Dreadnoughts, please go check them out. You will not be disappointed. And finally, we have what I call our final vinyl. Yeah, there's the front. This is Blackfoot's Medicine Man, 1990. There's the back. The old wishing medlock pointing at the sky. Whip this out. There's the band. There's the lyrics on the inner sleeve. Now, this is one of the lesser known Blackfoot albums, and an album that kind of marks their kind of a step back towards their roots. Blackfoot have been going since the early 1970s. Classic southern rock band. They're all members of the band, or were originally members of the Blackfoot people, hence the band's name. Native Americans. I don't think they all remained Blackfoot. I think most of the people in the early days had some kind of Native American ancestry with them. Quite a politically active band. They did lots of songs about sort of like Native American rights, etc., and history. Had a bit of a direction change in the mid-80s. They brought in, of all people, Ken Hendersley from Uriah Heep on keyboards. Led to a couple of albums that Psycho and Vertical Smiles, which although they're fairly good albums, I do possess them both and do rate them both quite highly, was kind of step away from the Blackfoot's kind of core, kind of Wild Western, Native American kind of vibe. This album, Ken Hendersley left after the Vertical Smiles album, and then they released this after a couple of years hiatus. It's not bad. As a return to I say return to form because I do like Vertical Smiles and Syogo, but it's a kind of definitely a step back towards their kind of southern rock roots. Although at the same time, it's probably a couple of notches heavier than any of their previous albums. Whether it works as an album or not, I'm not sure. This isn't my favourite Blackfoot album. It's not one that I go to regularly. I drag it out every year or so for a spin, but it's not one that, unlike, say, Strikes or Syogo, which will be, found on my turntables at quite regular intervals, or on my MP3 player or whatever. It's pretty good. You got a lineup of here Richie Medlock on the vocals, Gunnar Ross on drums, Neil Cassell on guitars, and Ricky Mayer on bass, which I think is only leaves Richie Medlock left from the classic Blackfoot lineup. Overall, I do a pretty good job. Highlight on here is a cover of Freeze the Stealer. They had already done a cover of Wishing Well on an earlier album. Was it Wishing Well? Yeah, it was Wishing Well on one of their earlier albums. And Stealer being my favourite free number, I'm glad to hear a pretty damn fine version on this album. Other tracks on here: Sleazy World, Ain't Gonna Cry No More, Chill to the Bone, Guns are okay. Gunslinger Song and Dance, the closing cut, is probably the best other track on the album apart from the Stealer. But there's something kind of not quite right. It doesn't. Maybe it's a bit too heavy to be Blackfoot. Maybe it's that kind of, because not only have you lost sort of like Ken Annesley, you've also lost, a lot of the other kind of classic Blackfoot members, and Richie, not knocking Richie Medlock at all as a singer or a songwriter, but he's got to rebuild relationships and work, and kind of get it to work properly. And subsequent albums he did manage to put it together better, but this one tends to be a bit not one that I'd recommend that you start with if you want to collect Blackfoot stuff. Although if you are collecting Blackfoot stuff, it should be added to your collection. So yeah, not bad overall. 1990 Medicine Man by Blackfoot. So that's it for this week. Hope you've enjoyed. I said, always good to hear feedback from you. If you're watching on YouTube, comments are going to be down there, and there's a like and subscribe button as well. I'm not out of making money out of this, so I'm not trying to beg. I'm not begging money off you. What I am saying is that it spreads the word, makes more people aware, and I just want to talk about music to people. So please do that, and the comment as well is quite always good. Always helps the algorithm and gives me something to feed back on. Likewise on Facebook, comments are over there. Go, give me your feedback on any of the albums. What Barckley James Harvest album should I listen to? Am I wrong about Blackfoot's Medicine Man? Is it the greatest thing they did? But anyway, I'm going to wind it up here. You people out there, take care, and until next week, peeps. Bye.